Hello, good day, Homo sapiens. Welcome back to studying Prescott's Microbiology. And yes, what? Okay, we are happy. So today's topic is what? What we can see on the screen. So, wait, why it is not moving? Come on, move. What? What? My avatar is not moving. We have to, okay, it's numlock key. Now it's moving. Okay, aside that, everything's working fine. I think so, probably should be, because last time it didn't work. And yes, time to start. Wait. Is this thing working fine? Yes. So today's topic is eukaryotic cell structure and function. So not completely this structure. Okay, so I will turn on this so I can label things. Okay, where am I stuck? Yes. So eukaryotic cell structure and function. So last time we studied the prokaryotic cell. So the prokaryotic cell and the eukaryotic cell are both the type of cells, right? 1 and 2. So prokaryotic cells are the simpler cells which don't have true nucleus and which have no membrane bounded organelles, right? Two things that are different, nucleus and membrane bounded organelles, right? So, but the name origination is based on the nucleus because prokaryotes don't have true nucleus, while the U means true and it has true nucleus, right? Now, the things that it doesn't have, eukaryotic cells have it. Now, eukaryotic cells have true nucleus and membrane bounded organelles, right? Membrane bounded organelles. Membrane bounded organelle means the organelles present in the eukaryotic cells have membranes around it. Some have it, some don't have it, but mostly have it, right? Now what does these two things make the eukaryotic cells, like how does it makes them different from prokaryotic cell? Like it gives so much diversity to prokaryotic cells. Eukaryotic cells are anything aside from the bacteria and archaea, which we studied under the prokaryotic cell, the bacteria and the archaea, while the eukaryotic cell have fungi, protists, algae, animals, plants, right? Animals, plants, everything. Means aside from bacteria or archaea, anything else is included in the eukaryotic cell. Now eukaryotic cell can be unicellular, can be multicellular, right? Uni or multi. Multi means the cells that work, the organisms that are made from one cell is unicellular. The organisms that are made from multiple cells are multicellular organisms. Now the organisms have eukaryotic cell, yes, you can have eukaryotic cell type, can have prokaryotic cell type, but it can be made from one cell, it can be made from multiple cells. Like in case of prokaryotes, it has very simple cells, so like it doesn't make multiple cell organisms, so it can be excluded from that. But in eukaryotic cell we have multiple cell animals, what do you call it, organisms. Now here are examples to see. Now as we have studied that we have multiple classes of eukaryotic cells, right? The first is paramecium, the slipper like organism. This is unicellular, means it is complete in itself as only one cell. This is an individual. Like us, we humans are individuals as well, but we are made from multiple cells. But this one is individual, but it doesn't have any more cells. This one has one. Again, as you can see, it has true nucleus and it is bounded by membrane, and it has membrane bounded organelles, right? But it is very simple because it is unicellular, right? The organism doesn't need much because it is a single cell, so it is not as complex. But when you come towards the diatom, now the diatoms are protists, right? And the name is like diatoms, mean it has two kind of atoms. Means the atom in this sense is not of chemistry atom, it is like a singular compartment. Like for example, you take yo-yo, right? Yo-yo, it has one apartment, one another, and when you combine them it forms a yo-yo. The same is the case is very similar in of diatoms with these. It has always two double layers, and that's why we call it diatoms. Again, this is a eukaryotic cell. Now if you look at these are not single cell, right? Like these are multicellular. But so we can say where is the membrane and where is the organelles. But like eukaryotic cells can be, or organisms that are made from eukaryotic cells can look like this. Now these two are fungi. Fungi are, these are the colonies, so the cells are not completely shown, while this one is the microscopic structure, and there also we can see the cells, but it is made from hyphae and the fruiting bodies. So the cells are like here, here, here. These are the smaller cells, so you can see the organelles, but you can see that the organisms that are made from eukaryotic cells, from multiple cells, can be so much diverse. They have fruiting bodies, they have cells and stuff like that. Now this is also a fungi, which is like this in, if you look at from the outside, but we also have the fungi that looks like this. This is the mushroom, but the remaining fungi body, that is the hyphae, like these cells. The upper part is this, like as you can see in this, the smaller one. This is like the apparent when we can see with the naked eyes. This is there, and the lines, filamentous like cells, are beneath, are underground. So it is like this. Now there is another eukaryotic cell or organism that is stentor, and this is also protist, and this is, as you can see from green color, this is photosynthetic one. Now like we have very diverse microorganisms, we have very diverse eukaryotic organisms. Wait, I have to wait, I want to, I have to mute. I will not. So eukaryotic cells function on the diverse level, that is the photosynthetic, among any multiple metabolic activities, diversifying from making food on their own and eating things, and then digesting that and making it on its own. Now respiratory abilities and photosynthetic abilities are only possible because of their diverse organelles or membrane bounded organelles. I mean bacteria, there are bacteria that has photosynthetic activity, but again it's not that complex as the on higher level as in plants or algae. Now let's see the total organelles present in a eukaryotic cell. Just we were talking about, now we did talk about the nucleus and the cell membrane, right? But we didn't talk about the other membrane bounded organelles. So when we talked about the nucleus has the nuclear membrane, nuclear pores, nucleolus. So like the nucleus is very complex and the genetic material is very well protected. Well, about the cell, it has a cell, it can have a cell wall, it might not have a cell wall, but the cell membrane is always present. The cell membrane can be made from chitin, from be made of glycocalyx and different kind of structures. Sorry, not glycocalyx, cellulose. Like in plants case it is made from cellulose, and fungi case it is made from chitin. Now we have vacuoles like water vacuoles. Now the function of this, we will discuss it like from down here. Plasma membrane is mechanical cell boundaries, selectively permeable barrier with transport system, mediates cell to cell interaction and adhesion to surface secretions. Cytoplasmic matrix, environment for other organelles, location of many other metabolic processes. Means the cytoplasm is made from H2O and other minerals like NaCa, and calcium, potassium, and sodium like chlorine as well, and these are present so the signals can be conducted between the different organelles, and there are multiple metabolic activities that occur, and it is divided into compartment based on the organelles present around it. So the function working happening in every compartment is different, but it is interconnected because of the cytoplasmic matrix presence. Now we have filaments, or you can say this is collectively a cytoskeleton as written here. Cytoskeleton is made from the microfilaments, intermediate filaments, and microtubules. These are all almost filaments, but the size difference as a whole, because micro is large while intermediate is on middle level, while microtubule is very small and it makes bundles, and even flagella is made from these microtubules. And cell structure and movement, because it compacts the cell structure so it will have easy movement. It's like building blocks, just as pillars in the house. Now endoplasmic reticulum is transport of materials, proteins, lipid synthesis. Endoplasmic we have two types, the smooth endoplasmic reticulum and the rough endoplasmic reticulum. The smooth one don't have ribosomes, while the rough one has ribosomes. Means the rough endoplasmic reticulum will make more proteins and will be more involved in protein synthesis and transport of proteins, while the smooth one is left for the transport of other materials, and they have lipid for the lipid synthesis as well. As long as we have enzyme, we can produce lipid synthesis, or we can produce lipids. Ribosome is very fundamental organelle which is present in both prokaryote and eukaryotic cell. Again, in the formation of proteins, we have enzymes, and then we have metabolic activities, means we can have life, right? That's how important is ribosome is. Now the ribosome, again, the only function it do is produce proteins, and it makes every kind of protein. Any kind of code that is being given by the nucleus or the genetic material to ribosome, it can make it, and the material that it needs to make those proteins are present in the cytoplasm. So again, the only function is the protein synthesis, but if we don't have proteins, we won't have enzymes and we won't have any metabolic activities, means we won't be able to survive. That is how important is the ribosome is. The Golgi apparatus is the packaging and secretion of material for various purposes, lysosome function. Now, if the endoplasmic reticulum is for the transport of material within the cell, Golgi apparatus prepares the materials for the transport of the cell outside, like transportation outside the cell. So, and lysosome formation, this is the very exceptional formation by the Golgi apparatus, that lysosome, it combines multiple degradative enzymes, right? Multiple degradative enzyme means the enzymes that degrade substances, and it just makes envelopes for them. Golgi apparatus has expertise in making envelopes around different types of material, any kind of material, so it is safe and it won't mix with other kind of stuff. Lysosomes, intracellular digestion, because it has degradative enzymes and it can digest kind of anything, even viruses and bacteria that come from the outside. If it is engulfed by the lysosomes within the cell and it is degraded, if the cell is able to do that, then the cell will survive. So lysosomes have immune working, and it doesn't only do defense function, but the things that are not needed within the cell, lysosomes degrade it. For example, the enzymes that we don't need it in the cell, we don't store it for future purposes, we degrade it, and for future purposes we again signals the nucleus and it sends us the messenger RNA and we recreate this enzyme. So we don't store it where we degrade it instantly if we don't need it. Mitochondria, energy production. Again, we have studied that the mitochondria, there are theories that say that mitochondria was first a prokaryote, and it was engulfed by a cell, another prokaryote, and when it is engulfed, that prokaryotic cell evolved and made complex, because mitochondria replicates on its own. It is a self-replicatory organ. and it produces energy for itself on its own as well. It is not dependent on other, so it gives us the idea that it might not be uh, it might not be an organelle but a single cell in the past. Now, it energy produces through tricarboxylic acid cycle, electron transport chain, and oxidative pathways. Now, these are very not simple, but if you look at it in simple terms, like we produce carbon dioxide, H2O from here, specifically H2O. Now in electrons transport chain we produce electrons. Where does these electrons comes from? It comes from these material that were left out in the tricarboxylic acid pathway. And when we have these electrons, mean electrons that are on its own have higher energy, and for we need that higher energy, we use those electrons and take their energy and convert it into ATP through oxidative phosphorylation or any other kind of pathways, because in tricarboxylic acid we also produce ATP. So it doesn't necessarily mean that, but the pathway is oxidative pathway, and so we produce ATP. So the main, just as the function of ribosome was protein synthesis, the function of mitochondria is ATP synthesis. Lysosome is degradative. Golgi and endoplasmic reticulum transports, and this one kinds of packaging as well. This one cytoskeleton means supporting the cell. Now chloroplasts are maybe present or absent. It depends on the eukaryotic cell. If it does photosynthesis, then it is present, and if it doesn't do photosynthesis, the chloroplast is not present. How does it work? How does it produce oxygen? Photosynthesis is the process of producing oxygen from the carbon dioxide. They use the carbon dioxide and they produce carbon dioxide, sorry, not the production of oxygen but the production of their own food, and in the process of that we get the oxygen. So they use the carbon dioxide in the air and they combine them through various pathways and they produce carbohydrates. Since we know that the carbohydrates have carbon backbones, and the carbon that is present in the atmosphere is very abundant in carbon dioxide form, so we use that carbon and incorporate that. And since we use so many C's, we don't need that many O's, so we convert them into oxygen and water, and so it helps in our environment. Now nucleus, respiratory for genetic information, sorry, not respiratory, repository for genetic information, control center for the cell. Again, nucleus has not only two functions but one function, and that is the genetic material. We see nucleus and we know that it has genetic material. Now it doesn't only store the genetic material, but it also gives off this genetic material in the form of messenger RNA through transcription process. And there is one more important function that people are not very aware of it, and that is the ribosome construction. And I mean, nucleus is a whole and nucleolus is present in a nucleus, so it's kind of the function of nucleus on its own. That is the ribosomal RNA synthesis and ribosome construction. Ribosome is the only organelle that is constructed within the nucleus. Other than that, all of the organelles, membrane bounded or not membrane bounded, they are all created in the cytoplasm. Cell wall and pellicle. Now cell wall is either present or not present. Animal cells don't have cell walls. Some protists also don't have cell walls, so it depends. Strengthen and give shape to the cell. Now cilia and flagella. Cell movement, again these are locomotory, so it might be present or not present. Now we are humans. Now we also do locomotion. No, sorry, we don't do locomotion, we move, but we don't have cilia or flagella. It is only for the cells that have to move on its own, so it is usually abundant on those types. Unicellular cells have more cilia and flagella. Now vacuole have temporary storage and transport. Food vacuole, water balance, contractile vacuole. Vacuoles are just storage, storage, temporary storage. It can be digested, and when not needed, when needed can be formed. It is not a permanent organelle, it is just a storage function that creates or decreates digested. Now for food vacuole, storage of food, if it is scarce in food vacuoles are found in the organisms that have scarcity of food. Water vacuoles are present in those that have scarcity of water. Like for example, we have seen that the plant cells have bigger water vacuoles, like almost this much amount. Now, why do they have bigger vacuole? Is because they have to take water from the underground, and the upper body doesn't have access to water. So it is their mechanism to store water more, because what if they don't receive water anymore? So they have to survive. So that's why they create big vacuoles for water, and they don't have food vacuole because they can make their own food at any time. So the water vacuole is bigger than the food vacuole. Like it might not even be present. Okay. Now the plasma membrane. The plasma membrane, about the cell wall, that are not discussed because only the cellulose structure and the cellulose present and the chitin present, while the plasma membrane is present in all of the eukaryotic cell and the prokaryotic cell. So the prokaryotic cells or the eukaryotic cell all have plasma membrane, and the plasma membrane is similar in structure in every kind of organism, almost the same. Like lipid bilayer is similar, like phosphate head and fatty acid tail, and this is double layer. It's double layer, right? The one layer and the other layer, and now we have proteins and the carbohydrates embedded in it. Maybe lipids are present on there. The proteins act as a channel pathways, like allowing the calcium, nitrogen, or potassium to go in and out. Now the accepted plasma membrane model is the fluid mosaic model, that these lipid bilayers float over each other. Now the lipids present on the proteins or carbohydrates act as signal transduction signal pathways. They signal the cell that if they need something, or they need to secrete something, or they need to be defensive or offensive. Signals are of every kind. Our nervous system is produced, signals are produced through elements or atoms, ions actually, but the cell signal pathways or the receptors are through these fatty acids. Now in lipid membrane, these proteins or lipid or fatty acids concentration and the position is random, asymmetric, right? It is asymmetric, can be anywhere, may be condensed in one area and less condensed in another area. Now if one kind of compound is condensed in one area, we call it raft. For example, there are lipid rafts. Lipid raft means phingolipids or fatty acid triglyceride or something is condensed in a single area, so we call it lipid raft because this area is condensed in lipid raft. Okay. So like plasma membrane is general like this. Again, cell movement, signal transduction, and it is selectively permeable and stuff like that. Right. About these are the carbon backbones. These are the nitrogen and methyl groups, which we call trimethyl amines. These are the functional groups. Now the lipids have normally COOH functional group, or this trimethyl like CH3 bracket 3 and N, either this or that. Now depends on what kind of lipids we are talking about. Now this is cyclic, and these are chains, and now there we have a triglyceride which have 3 layers and they are bounded with one another like 3 chains. So yeah, the end. And